Today I'm going to demonstrate how to do an identity CSV import. So let's go ahead and log into ACM and we'll take a look at our identities. So you can see in my system I only have one identity, which is the default system administrator record. So now let's take a look at the identity information that I want to import from a CSV file. So you can see here in this file I have 4 columns of data. The first 3 columns are required. This last column D, that's actually optional. However, if I don't indicate the status, then when these identities are imported into ACM, they'll be set to inactive. So I set everyone's status to 1. Okay, so let's go back over to ACM and we'll actually configure our import. So to do that, we'll go to Setup and Settings and down to Collaboration. And then we'll add collaboration. I'm going to specify a name here, and then my type is going to be Identity CSV one-time long format. So the delimiter is typically a comma. Now, if you're going to have commas in your actual data, then you would need to enclose that in quotes. So you'd specify which quotes you're using here. Otherwise, when the system sees that comma, it's going to interpret it as the next column of data. Now, for the date format, in my particular case, the file I'm using came from ACM. So I know that the date format is export collaboration. If your file came from a different system, you can of course select the appropriate date and time format. When you do that, it is going to show you an example over here to the right. Now I'm going to go ahead and put this back to export collaboration, and I'm going to select my CSV file. So here's the file that I showed you previously. I'm going to go ahead and save this. Now once I do that, I'm going to want to click on install. And now that I've installed it, I can run my collaboration, or I could run a preview to see what data would be brought in if I actually ran it. So running the preview is probably a good idea. That way you can see if there are any errors. And if there's no errors, then I would go ahead and proceed to run. So I'm going to go ahead and run this. And it has completed. So let's go take a look at the results. So now you can see here we have a total of 106 records. We previously had 1 record, so we've added 105. So the first example I showed you was really the minimum information, but there's a lot more information that you can import with the CSV file. Basically any data that's in the identity can be imported. Okay, so let's take a look at another example. Now this is the same information that we imported previously, but in that case we only imported the external system ID, status, and the name information. Here we've got a lot more information. We've got city and state, phone, email, we have roles specified, we have token information specified. The same is true with the token status as with the identity. If you don't set the status to 1, which is active, then when your tokens are imported, those will be inactive. Also, if you have multiple tokens for one person, you would just create another line with the same information, in this case William Smith, and then when you get to the token unique and internal number, that's where you'd put the unique information in. And that way you could specify more than one token to one identity if you needed to. So let's go ahead and run this example. So I'm going to go back to Setup and Settings and then to Collaboration. I'm going to reuse the collaboration I created in the previous step, but I will have to specify which file that I want to use. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to click that. I'm going to save that. And now I'm going to run the collaboration. Okay, so now it's complete. Let's go back and take a look. Now you might ask here, is it going to bring in duplicate records since I previously imported the same identities but with less information? And the answer is no, it's not going to. What's going to happen is when the second import runs, it's going to look at the external system ID. And if that external system ID is already in ACM, it's going to look at that data. And basically what it will do is it will update the identity that's in the system with the data that is in the CSV file. So in this case, we're adding additional information to the record that's already in the system. And now let's go back. Okay, so now let's go back and take a look at an example in ACM. So you can see here we have more than just the last name and status. We've got department information, phone number, some address information. Now we'll go over to roles. You can see that a role was assigned, and you can also see that a token was assigned. And since we did indicate the token status and we set it to 1, our token status is active. One final note about roles. If you do elect to import roles from the CSV file, you need to make sure that they are first created in ACM. Otherwise, those roles won't be imported. So that's it. Thanks for joining today.